Like if something is aligned, your body should automatically feel calm. And I don't think that's true. Knowing and getting answers and having that inner knowing, that inner clarity and aha moments actually is very activating. Pluto asks, what are you scared of? And then you tell them and they go, yeah, let's do that. OMG. Woe is me. Pluto is being such a puta. Seriously. Pluto stationed yesterday. So it's moving like the slowest because it went from spinning forward and then it's stationed so that way it can turn back. Well, before you can go into reverse, if you're driving forward, before you can go reverse, you got to come to a complete stop. Look, is the planet Pluto no longer spinning? Absolutely not. But it looks like it's spinning retrograde. And energetically, that's what we go with. And so when it slows down, we're going to feel everything. And for members of my sun, sometimes my moon, I talk about Pluto patterns because they're so important. Actually, we just had the full moon in Scorpio last week, and I did meet moon members and I did talk about Pluto patterns because they are so transformative. They are seriously some of my favorite. I talk about eighth house work, I talk about Pluto patterns, and when we release control, which is not my favorite as a super Virgo, but when we release control, we can actually get to some real deep, deep, deep transformation. And I will tell you personally, I felt this first emergence of Pluto, election day 2024, in my sixth house, right? So my systems, I was learning hard lessons, but I was moving and grooving still. It was hard lessons that were stressful, but in the end, I knew, okay, this is going to make my systems better. This is going to make my connections and my day-to-day life better. It's making my work schedule better. All of these things that are sixth house aligned with Pluto. However, I don't know if it was the combo of Pluto slowing down or like the full moon in Scorpio plus the Pluto slowing down, but it has been one of the most psychologically intense Pluto periods I have experienced in a hot minute. Obviously, if you go back and listen to my episode where I talk about Pluto in Scorpio squaring this Pluto in Aquarius, the transiting Pluto, there is a lot of aha moments that we all kind of just word vomit. I came to a lot of realization that I was censoring myself to keep other people comfort because my Pluto is in Scorpio in my third house. So how I organize my thoughts, how I talk to myself, how I talk about concepts and things that I've experienced to y'all. I think that once I kind of unlock that, that's when this podcast morphed from just astrology, which is important, into here's how you apply astrology into your day-to-day life. And I think that is the most important. We can go on Instagram and take in all of this stuff and, like and save posts, but if we're not integrating it, if we're not bringing it into our everyday life, like what's the point? Then you're always catching up instead of in real time repositioning your thoughts around what's happening, both astrologically and how it shows up and manifests into your life. So, with that said, astrologically, Pluto, technically, by whole sign, it's in my sixth house, but by Placidus, it is technically in my fifth house. Creativity, visibility. The fifth house is naturally ruled by Leo and the sun. So when I say naturally ruled by, I want you to think of like the architect and the builder. So everybody has the same themes in the fifth house, but our special sauce on it is our sign and how it shows up in it. So when I have Pluto technically in my fifth house right now, and I have my Jupiter in Aquarius fifth house as well, astrologically, this is huge expansion around visibility and creativity. how I express myself, even who I'm talking to. Everything gets bigger. I'm teaching publicly. My voice, even on this podcast, like if I'm reaching 30 originally, I'm reaching 300 by the end of this transit come October. But intellectually, I find myself taking up more space because I dimmed a lot of my shit in order to not put myself in a space of visibility where people could be like, nope, that's wrong. Even though I know it's not wrong, but the thought of being vulnerable outwardly, it just does not make me feel comfy cozy. So we have that going on in my chart. If you haven't figured it out yet, this is definitely going to be, oh my God, my chart's on fire, and let me talk to you guys about it. But maybe it's happening to you too. Maybe you're picking up on some of these same themes. But at the exact same time, I have my South Node moving through my 12th house of Virgo. Now, 12th house is hidden shit. I am a Virgo rising, but by Placidus, I have Venus and Mars in Virgo in my 12th house. The South Node moving through my 12th house of Virgo is stripping away. Pluto asks, what are you scared of? And then you tell them, and they go, yeah, let's do that. Like if something is aligned, your body should automatically feel calm. And I don't think that's true by force, I'm going to say, but it's stripping away my perfectionism, this hypervigilance around getting it perfect and controlling my patterns. So that way I communicate perfectly and I show up publicly in a very toned down way that is perfect for everybody else. And not that it's not authentic to me, because y'all know I show up very much authentically me. But I am also constantly aware of the perception of, okay, how is this going to translate on a public scale? South Node drains energy. So it's just really exhausting to be considering, the opinions of other people that are none of my business. And I am learning that clarity does not always feel safe in my nervous system, in your nervous system, because logically, I know my life is expanding right now. If I put on my very logical brain, I know that my life and my business is all about expansion right now. I just signed 7 new Sun members up within the last couple weeks because I had my formal launch of the Sun program. I did like a pre-launch, a soft launch for my clients and my mailing list for the Stars membership back in, what was that, February? So I'm ready to hard launch. I'm ready to go Instagram official with the Stars. But these podcasts are also going to be available visually on the YouTube channel. And I know that I'm supposed to be more visible. When I lost my business a few years ago, my friend Snowy, who's a psychic, and my friend Jessica, who's also a psychic, they both told me like bigger and better things. This is a big transformation. Here's where it's going. Here's where it's leading. But my friend Jessica said, you are playing too small. Even if it's just you sipping tea, like you need to record yourself, you need to get out there more. And over the years, that has just made me feel uncomfortable. It's not that I can't do it. It's just, I don't know. I guess innately in my, last version of myself, I'm like, who wants to watch that? And then I'm like, well, there's tons of people doing Get Ready with me. So it's basically the same thing. I just make tea or whatever. So even when I'm talking about this, I know I'm supposed to be more visible, but my body emotionally braces for loss. Just bringing it up a minute ago, I'm like, oh my God, they're going to think I'm so full of myself. And I think this Pluto retrograde is forcing me to look at this gap between probably two different things. I've been realizing lately that fear-based censorship is way more subtle than people think it is. I don't think fear-based censorship always looks like I'm too scared to post, because that is not how it shows up for me. Sometimes it looks like, people won't understand it anyway. What's the point? I don't want to explain myself. I don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, whatever it is. My biggest wound in my chart and in my life that is easily triggered, my Chiron is in Gemini, 10th house. So sometimes it's almost like, why would anyone care? Why would they care what I have to say? Why would they care what I'm wearing? Why would they care what I'm doing with my day? My public wound is literally tied to communication, to visibility, to being understood, being heard correctly, not being misinterpreted, all of these things. And so when you have that, plus in Scorpio, I have Saturn. Saturn is a planet of responsibility. So it creates this hypervigilance around my communication and almost like self-scrutiny. Like I'm just hyper aware. So I'm like, you fucked up here. You misspelled that there, even though like the ADHD is fucking thick on this girl. But I don't think I learned communication as an expression of myself. I think I learned communication was survival. How is this going to be interpreted? Will people misunderstand me? Will I need to defend myself? Will I feel hurt? Will I regret saying this publicly? I shared a couple weeks ago how, I was trying to tell somebody how their impact on me was not always kind. And it made me feel very alone and isolated and ignored. And before I told them, they were like, well, you better be 100% on what you're going to say because you can't take it back. And so even as I'm talking about it right now, I'm having that aha moment, which kind of hurts more because here we are having this podcast. You almost get in a pattern where it's hurtful to recognize that than it is to recognize maybe how much energy it's going to take for me to explain myself, how much self-monitoring I've done that has been automatic when my nervous system is associating visibility, being seen, being heard with danger, with ugliness. And honestly, I think that's part of that deeply reinforced pattern during one of the hardest Pluto times of my life that I can think of. The last time Pluto activated me was during Pluto square Pluto. And, this hit hard. And I talked about it last week about like that coup that went down at the shop, right? Packed my shit, changed the locks, all of these things. I showed up and everything was done. So when I'm trying to hold on to this beautiful thing that I'm making and I just get blindsided, it's crushing. When I'm putting myself out there and trying to tell people how their impact was on me, and I get blindsided with, well, you better be sure about what you're going to say because you can't take it back. Like, it just reinforces this communication for survival. But the older I get, the more I realize that situations imprinted something really deep on my nervous system. After all these experiences, I think this has made my nervous system and my unconscious, my subconscious, my 12th house, right? Associate visibility, certainty, directness, power, all of these beautiful words, with social punishment. Think about it. Like if I became too visible, if I started living my life too fucking soft, too hard to control because I am living my best authentic self, too certain of myself, people can turn on me. And I stayed quiet about losing my shop for years, even though she was running her mouth. I barely brought up how painful it was to have somebody tell me that when I'm trying to be so vulnerable, like what, a couple months ago on the podcast. And truly, that's like the first time I had talked through that at all. All of it makes sense now that I think about it from an astrological perspective, because my natal Pluto in the third house, remember, third house, voice, communication, how I talk to myself about what I perceive in the world. And Pluto transits are not just about a tower moment outside of your emotional state. This is a complete bring it down, phoenix rising from the ashes moment, because Pluto patterns and Pluto transits specifically are going to expose the psychological architecture underneath how we survive in these survival patterns. And I think Pluto retrograde is bringing me kind of face to face with that architecture again, but just slightly different. It's very subtle. Like, why do I still hesitate before posting something that I know is astrologically solid? I seriously would be like, this bitch, da, 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 and bring it up astrologically, or I'm watching a show and I'm like, that's a Virgo, or whatever sign it is, right? And I'm like, oh, that would make such a good post. And I'll be honest, sometimes I take a lot of time and effort to do some like pop culture posts, and it never lands. It's almost like Pluto is telling me and the universe is telling me it takes too much effort, so don't fucking do it. I also over explain a lot. Why do I keep doing that? Why am I mentally preparing to be scrutinized in all ways? Yes, in a public way with my own business, but also like even to myself and in my environment. I'm like waiting to go, well, what about this? And what about this? And what about this? And so, like, why am I preparing to be picked apart? Why do I still feel emotionally activated around my visibility and being seen as authentically me? A lot of the time, talks that I have with Aaron are around me just being my beautiful neurodivergent self. And as painful as it is to say, I can't be that way, or I don't feel like it's safe to be that way around everybody. You know, that sucks. So it's probably why I isolate more. Obviously, as I'm like tearing up, I'm emotionally activated around this visibility of my authentic self. Even though I want to have people in my life where I feel safe being the weirdo that Aaron gets to experience, and thankfully that he loves. But because I do want that now, what's really interesting about that is I find myself in this transformation right now, this activation from Pluto. I'm not resisting the expansion, at least consciously, not anymore. I know I'm supposed to teach publicly. I know that I was a teacher, a special education teacher for years, but I know I'm supposed to be teaching even now, right? I'm supposed to be teaching astrology. I'm supposed to be teaching herbalism. I'm supposed to be teaching, above all else, an ancient way to live life. These ancient rituals, these ancient and sacred rites that we have within us. And I know I'm supposed to take up more space. I know YouTube is probably a part of my future in that taking up space. I know my work is becoming more visible. I'll be honest. I posted a get ready with me, which I never fucking do. I think I've done one other in my entire time of my social media content stuff. But I had like 200 likes, like, and I don't actually know if it's 200, so please do not quote me on that, like me being activated right now. But it was like within 24 hours. And so I'm like, okay, so me being a little bit more authentically me and having y'all visibly see my day, makes sense. It makes sense on my end because I'm always like, what the fuck do I post? And it makes sense on your end because obviously somebody liked it, right? And so I know my work is becoming more visible. It's more me time because if I post a video with me talking or I make all these Canva slides and it's like swipe, 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 I'll spend an hour making that versus what, 5 minutes making other videos. And the carousel posts always like dead in the water. But if I say the exact same thing, but directly to the camera, it's like it gets rave reviews. So this is clearly a sign and has been a sign from the universe, more visible. Okay, I'm not fighting anymore. So universe, if you're listening, not fighting anymore. But I think back to what my friend Jessica said of you need to be in the spotlight. And that really stuck with me because deep down, I think I already knew it, but it was very uncomfortable because I was raised that people in the spotlight were full of themselves, that, they lost touch with reality, with taking care of everybody else. And I don't know if it's just because, I grew up in the Los Angeles area or what, but that's kind of like the perception. Okay. And so wanting visibility and feeling safe being visible, when I really think about it, are two different things that my nervous system experiences. And that's where I think a lot of people get confused because people assume, when I understand that, when I get crystal clear on my vision, that feels peaceful. Like if something is aligned, your body should automatically feel calm. And I don't think that's true. Because you know what? I kind of feel like this is aligned and not so great internally. I personally feel like knowing and getting answers and having that inner knowing, that inner clarity and aha moments actually is very activating, especially when your identity is built around hypervigilance and monitoring yourself and bracing for impact and loss and trying to stay emotionally safe at all times. And I think that's what this Pluto transit is showing me. Because retrogrades for, the slower moving planets, the superior planets, are not like Mercury retrograde. Pluto is about my life expanding, sure, but I'm out here. I'm signing up recurring memberships. My audience is growing. I'm building and have built and been sustainable for a hot minute, but it's getting to another level of sustainable that I'm grateful for. I'm traveling for a family wedding out of state. And so I'm being asked to step more publicly into my work, but emotionally, I keep having these little moments where my nervous system acts like the expansion is dangerous. And I'm like, I don't understand. Expansion's good. Like, I know it. I can logically see. I see other friends, they're expanding in all sorts of ways. I see my members expanding in all sorts of ways. And I'm like, body, why is expansion bad? And right now, I'll be honest, since I'm going out of town next week, it's kind of making me feel it financially. And I'm not feeling anything. Okay. That's the thing. Like logically, if I put on my Super Virgo mind, logically, I'm not feeling any different than I would have on April 7th of last month. The realization though, kind of hit me hard recently. Pretty much since we had that full moon and Pluto really started slowing down. I realized I trust money that I can track more so than money I can trust. And those are two completely different nervous system experiences. I'll give you an example. My herbalism side of the business, okay? It is great. My wholesale orders are through the roof. I'm I'm making new relationships, and people are putting in their next order like within moments after receiving the order that I just fulfilled. Like that's how quickly things are flying off the shelf for them. But for whatever reason, since I started my business, Mother's Day to Father's Day, I am dead. Basically, I don't pick up till July. So that's why I like to go on vacations and stuff May and June, because for the most part in my business, it's kind of like my chill season. Come the fall, come winter, I am busy, busy, busy. But right now, I always kind of just fall off. I wish I could explain it, because I'm like, hello, this is a great gift for mom. I have a tea of the month. It literally is $22, and there is a custom tea blend sent directly to your door every month. You would think Mother's Day, that's a no-brainer. Do a year of it. What's $22, right? But, here we are, Mother's Day to Father's Day. I kind of fall off. And when the order comes in my herbal business, whether it's wholesale or retail, I get the notification. I see the deposit in real time. My nervous system can visually track, okay, this is when I'll be paid. This is that. But memberships, my nervous system cannot visually track safety in that. Right? I know people are signed up. I trust that there is recurring revenue that's coming in, but because I cannot see it arriving the same way I do my tangible products, my retail and my wholesale, my body is triggered differently. And over the past few days, I've realized, oh, this is not about money at all. This is 1000% a Pluto pattern over control. This is about predictability and safety and all of these, nervous system issues. But honestly, that's very Pluto in the second house. Okay. Whether my nervous system trusts expansion before I have complete proof is Pluto issues. Now, we talked about my Pluto being in Scorpio in my third house. Well, that's by whole sign. By Placidus, it's actually in the second house. Pluto in the second house, we don't just fear loss. That's a Pluto word, fear. Pluto asks, what are you scared of? And then you tell them, and they go, yeah, let's do that. The fear here is instability. It's that powerlessness. When I was a teacher, I'm working a full-time real fucking job that I had to have a degree, take an extra test, take a further extra test to teach special education. There's lots of work that goes into it. So then why am I powerless? I'm feeling like I have no power as I get a penny's paycheck. I felt powerless at that job. And so I think that's what I'm fearing, the instability of being powerless. And I think that's why this trip is being activated in me too, because I keep worrying, what if my travel expenses are way more than I accounted for because that asshole is it up? What if I come home without a safety net? And yet at the same time, I know for a fact my life is expanding. That is truly the weirdest part. I know I'm on the verge of something massive. I've done my astrology. I could give you exact dates that are my best business days. I can see where I'm expanding, in what realm, in what way. Even the Tower card. The Tower card. I pulled it this morning. I pulled it in the beginning of the week. I pulled it over the weekend. Like, Jesus. And, the more work I do, the more I'm like, okay, but maybe that's the Tower card. Maybe that's why it's showing up. I don't think the Tower card in this way is predicting disaster in my environment per se. I think it's describing the collapse of the version of me that believes I need certainty before I make the leap. I tell y'all all the time, do you trust the version of you that can handle any situation moving forward? I tell myself I do, but here I am, triggered and terrified. And it's terrifying to my nervous system because my nervous system is built around loss, bracing for loss. Remember back to my episodes when I was talking with my ex and like kind of the demise there. I literally was on vacation and he called me and he kind of like responded weird. And so I called him out on a lie I caught him in, and he immediately was like, I'm done. So here I am on vacation. We don't even argue like that. We really talk things out, or at least I thought, right? And that's what he hits me with. So now I feel like I'm always bracing for loss. And so now with the tarot card and the tower here everywhere, it's like, it's not necessarily ruined cards around it. It's been the Empress, it's been the Nine of Pentacles, it's been the Four Cups reverse. These are all receiving cards. The Tower is there, but I have other cards that are telling me I'm receiving. These are expansion cards. These are creative. If I had a womb, it would be, fertility and abundance and all of these things. So like, I see the Tower, but I also see the long list of abundance cards after the Tower. And while my nervous system keeps preparing for danger at the exact same time, I think that that's the real work of Pluto retrograde now. I came to this aha moment, but noticing the moment where maybe your body starts reacting from old survival patterns and deciding whether you still want to build life around those patterns. Because I don't think Pluto retrograde is asking me to be the most fearless and just go out here like we can try and do anything we want, although there's some truth to that. I do think it is asking me to stop abandoning myself in order to feel safe. Honestly, that might be the deepest transformation that I have coming forward. I think I'm learning that expansion can feel terrifying when your identity was built around bracing for loss. But that doesn't mean expansion's wrong. It's just what my old identity patterned it after. Today, I wanted to pull from an actual tarot deck, and let's see if we get the tarot. Oh my God, I would probably die if that was the case. But this is actually the Dreamer's Tarot by my friend and lovely, truly just a beautiful person in all ways, Marcella Kroll. And it's just a beautiful way to kind of honor that aha moment I had earlier with my neurodivergence and honor somebody that I have seen go through several transformations, and I'm very lucky to have seen that. But the card I pulled is actually the Ace of Pentacles reversed. So again, here we are. Where I'm like, so yeah, what do I do with that? This has been how it's been 4 days. Okay, y'all, that is it. I feel like I have done enough reconstruction for today. If you loved this episode, please let me know below. All right, y'all, have a great day, and I'll talk to you next week.